Hey everyone, Sean Smith here from PPCAMSaccelerator.com, and today I will be discussing an Amazon PPC case study where we increased profit margin from 16.92% to 23.83%. Now, for those that don't know me, my name is Sean Smith. I've been doing Amazon PPC for almost 8 years now. It's all I've been doing. I work with 7, 8-figure brands. I've worked with, hundreds of brands over the years and helped many people improve their Amazon PPC. So let's dive right in. So I'm going to be sharing, what I did on these accounts and also the data. I have screenshots of data that I want to share you. So this video is for you if you want to learn how to increase your profitability and profit margin using Amazon PPC. So if that's you, let's dive right in. All right, so I've got my data here. So what I'm going to start with is we're going to start with account level data. And what I want to go over, let me pull up my outline I have here. I want to go over, the first thing I want to go over is the account level. And I want to talk about what I call the major movers. What I mean by major movers is the things that I changed to make the account better. So basically the adjustments that I made to make the account better that we saw quantitatively, when we made the adjustments and after we made the adjustments, how it improved. So let's first go over the results. So I have screenshotted here from Sellerboard. I use Sellerboard for profit tracking for the accounts that I work with. I'm going to make my thing a little smaller because I just want you to be able to see everything. Make my head a little smaller. All right. So in October, we can see that, and keep in mind, I did take into consideration promos, refunds, Amazon fees, cost of goods, because I do know that when you're looking at data, you need to see all of the data. So we accounted for that data. We accounted for those variables. So, we made sure that we were doing this as accurate as possible because you could be in a situation where in October, you had a $20,000 storage fee, and in November, you had a $0 storage fee or a $5,000 storage fee, and then that would skew the data. So keep in mind, I did my best to be as precise when it came to measuring the before and after when I was looking at this data. So yeah, and also keep in mind, this does not include expenses as well. So by expenses, I mean employees, things that aren't added into Amazon. So that's something to consider as well. But with this brand, this person does not have a lot of expenses. They run their brand pretty lean. So that does help a lot. So let's hop right in. So in October, sales were $167,000, $167,544. Our net profit was $28,348, and our margin was 16.92%. Right? Let's go over November 23 results. $146,000. So we can see that actually our sales decreased by, 167 to 146, 67, 57, 47 by 20K. Sales decreased by 20K, right? And on a lot of situations, if you don't have access to this data, if you're not looking at profit and profit margin, if you're only looking at your Amazon Seller Central numbers, you might say to yourself, oh man, if you're looking at sales just in the business reports, you might be like, wow, this is not performing as well. But look at the margins. We went to 23.24%, not 8 sorry, I correct myself. I said 23.83%. It's 23.24%. That's my bad. So, $34,152. So we went from, we decreased sales by 20,000, but increased profit by, let's see, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 20, by 6,000. So we increased profit by 6,000, which is what, for this account that I'm managing, this is what we're working towards. We're working towards not only higher profit margins, but higher profit dollar values. So the next question is, how did we do this? How did this happen, right? So I want you to make note of something here. So let's take a look at this data. Let's dive in a little more. So take a look at advertising cost. Last month, advertising cost was $32,742, right? In October. And then in November, we decreased it to, oh, that's not right. Oh, that's not the one I'm looking for. I know I got a lot of screenshots to show you guys. So we did 32,000, and then we went from spending 32,000 to $17,714. That was the biggest reason we were able to increase the profit, was we really dialed back the advertising really aggressively, because we wanted to test it, man. We wanted to see, hey, can we get a better tacos? Can we improve the situation? So what did we do to do that? The first thing that we did, and I pulled up some spreadsheets. I'll go over what these spreadsheets are. Well, they're Google Sheets. What these Google Sheets are, how we tracked the before and after, so that you know exactly what our methodology was and how we measured everything. So let's go over. I think this is really the catalyst for everything. I think this was the game changer. So what I did was I took the last. Here's what I did. So on October 30th, so the end of October, I capped the account to $645, which is a 12% tacos target using the 14-day sales average. So I took so here's what I did. Basically I was looking for a target tacos. So I took the last 14 days worth of sales. I divided it by 14 to give me the average daily sales. And then I multiplied it by 0.12, which gives me $645. So I changed the daily cap to that. So capping the account is the biggest reason we did so well. I think that was kind of the big one. And I'm actually testing this on another account, and we're seeing amazing results in terms of profit and profitability. And on the other account that I'm testing this with, we actually saw that sales went up even when we capped the account, after we capped the account. So what does this tell me? What does this tell us about the Amazon PPC platform? This tells us that there is what I call a point of diminishing returns. So a point of diminishing returns is where you don't make any more top line revenue even though you're running more ads. It's diminishing returns. So you're spending more money, but you're not necessarily making more money. So that's what I'm always looking for with the accounts that I manage. I'm looking for our point of diminishing returns. Hey, are we overspending? I will say in the Amazon, marketing community, a lot of people say spend more. If it's doing well, spend more, all this and that. But I also think you should ask yourself, should I spend less? It's okay to ask yourself, should I spend more? But you should ask yourself, should I spend less? And should I test that to see if it helps out? Now, keep in mind, when you spend less, you might see a decrease in sales. And that's why it's so important to have a good profit tracking tool to be able to figure out, hey, even though sales went down, did profitability go up? So we changed it. This is kind of, I think, the big thing. I also think I don't know if it necessarily helped in terms of getting these results, but another thing we did, which is a little, might be seen as a little radical, we paused all other ad types except for sponsored products. So we paused sponsored brands, we paused sponsored brands video, we paused sponsored display. Now, why did we do that? We did that just because when we were running these other ad types, the way I measure things is when I run advertising, I ask myself, hold on, I'm going to make this a little bigger since I'm going on kind of a lecture here. So, maybe I'll just make it bigger since we're not even looking at data, since I'm kind of going off on a TED Talk here. So when I run advertising, my goal is to figure out whether or not this additional advertising is increasing total sales. Is it increasing total profit? Is it helping with profit margin as well? That's how I measure advertisement, because I work with Amazon brands that really want to be profitable. Their most important core health indicator in their business is profit and profit margin. Now, that doesn't mean you should just totally decrease sales at the expense of profit, but you have to figure out what that balance is. I personally have nicknamed it the Amazon Trinity, where we're trying to find the ideal balance between Amazon sales, Amazon profit, and Amazon profit margin. And we're using advertising to figure that out. So how do we do that? Well, we have to manipulate spend. We have to test different things to figure out, hey, what's driving more sales? What's driving more profit? So and the reason I explain this, because I want you guys to know the perspective which I manage accounts these days. And we've needed to do this because, selling on Amazon has been a lot more difficult than it has previously because of so many external factors, inflation, global, I would say like global occurrences, have basically increased prices across the board for people. So they have to really watch margin a little tighter. Plus, Amazon fees are getting higher, all that stuff. And I don't foresee it coming down anytime soon. So I need to really be focusing on profitability. All right. There's my little spiel to give you guys some context. Now let's get back into the data. So, we paused all the other, and that, I think that goes back to, hey, that's why we paused all the other ad types. Like, we didn't see that they were yielding the results that we needed, and we wanted to be as profitable as possible. And we were like, hey, let's test it. We can always reverse the changes, right? If I pause the campaigns, I can always unpause them as long as I measure the outcomes. So remember, you have to measure outcomes. When you make a change, that's why I look at these spreadsheets. Let me show you these Google Sheets here. What does it have? It has the date right here that the change was made. And it has what change was made. So that I can say, okay, on October 30th, we made this change. So how am I going to measure whether or not this change was effective? Well, we need to look at a time frame before we made the change, so before October 30th, and we need to measure after October 30th, right? So we need to exclude October 30th because it's a partial day because we made those changes throughout the day. I do that with everything. Honestly, every change we make, I track because I want to know, hey, I need to know the cause and effect. I need to know whether or not the decision that was made and the action that was taken yields a result, what result that is, and whether or not it was positive or negative to determine whether or not we need to reverse the changes or maybe make more changes, So there's where we're at. So I think that was the biggest one when it comes to the account level. That was why, I know it's simple. It sounds so simple, but for us, it was capping the account. We went from, we were at 32K and then we went from spending 32K in October to 17K. That's 10, 11, 12. I think that's like $14,000 in savings on spend. And we saw that we only lost 20K in sales, which might seem like a lot, but if you look at our net profit and our profit margin, way better than it was last month. And I'm testing this account I'm testing caps on another account and it's performing well. And I'm going to roll it out with 2 more. So that was what we did to get these results for this specific account, month over month. And we're going to continue testing these caps. Now, I do want to go over, now that we've went over account level adjustments, which seem very simple, right? But you have to understand that, we cap the account, right? So, cap the account, which means, it'll cap the amount we spend on sponsored products. Seems like a simple change, but the analysis we did and the way we approached it was complex in nature in the sense that we made sure to meticulously measure the before. I'm going to make myself big again because I'm talking, I'm not even looking at anything. All right. So where we meticulously measured the before and after, and I know I keep saying this, but I can't emphasize it enough. When you make a change, you have to figure out whether or not that change has yielded a positive or negative income, which means that you have to measure what change was made at what date and then measure the before and after and give it enough time to make a decision. That goes back to just measuring results. That's huge on this platform because that's how you understand the platform is measuring things after you make the changes. So that was the big one for us, was using a cap, testing an account cap. Let's go over a couple of SKUs as well where I tested these account caps more and more. So when we got good results, I tested more and more. So I would basically, let me go here, daily budget. Here we go. So on the 8th, I decreased it. So on the 30th, we changed it to 645. And then we saw that it was performing well. It was yielding the results that we wanted. I measured the after. And then on the 8th, which is about, 7-8 days later, or 9 days later, something like that, we decided to test, hey, from 645 to 582. Now, 645 minus 582. It's about $63. So even though we saw the initial results were really good, I didn't want to be too drastic. I was like, let's do 50 to $100 a day. You know what I mean? I did 63 here. So, I wanted to be really gradual with it because I didn't want it to just kill sales, right? You don't want to be in a situation. When it comes to testing, you want to be gradual with things because, $63 a day, if you look at it over 30 days is $1,800, $1,900. So it's not a small amount. So then we did that, right? And I actually think, hold on, 645 times 0.9. Yeah, about 10% less, I think, something like that, yeah, in that situation. And then we measured it again on the 17th, and we decreased it from 582 to 557 equals 582 minus 557. We decreased it by $25. So I went even more conservative because I was like, you know what? Let's just keep dialing it back like a little bit. So that was, and we kept changing it. But remember, I didn't just make these changes right here. I didn't just make this change at the account level and just, on the 17th be like, let's try it again. No. I went in and I measured, hey, before the 8th, I like to wait 4 to 7 days when I make changes. So, I looked 4 to 7 days. I was like, you know what? 4 to 7 days before, 4 to 7 days after. Are we seeing positive results that we want, which is better profit margin, better profit compared to before? And we did. And so that's why we decided to make another change. But I was always gradual with those increases because I knew that, really from what I've seen historically, when you make big adjustments, you're going to deal with big consequences. So really being gradual with these things, you know what I mean? So, really be careful with this stuff. So, for example, if you wanted to test it, if you're spending $500 a day, test 480 a day. You know what I mean? Be really conservative with this and measure the before and after. And if you see that, sales go down, well, first off, you need to know how to track your profit and profit margin on a daily basis. So you need to get that set up. And then once you test this, you can say, hey, if I'm spending 500 a day, I'm going to set it to 480 or 475 and test it, cap the account. And then after that, you can say, hey, after 4 days, I'm going to see if, what's going on the using a software that tracks your profit, because your sales might go down, but your net profit might go up and your margin might go up. So that's why you got to measure those 3 metrics. The Amazon Trinity, right? So we went over that. We paused all the other ad types, which I know some people think is controversial, but I will say most of my accounts, we've paused all the other ad types. And the only reason is because we're really profit focused. I call the businesses I work with bottom of funnel Amazon businesses, meaning we need to maximize profit. And so if an ad type is not yielding like higher sales or profit, then we're going to dial it back. And we see that, sponsored products tends to really be the one that, helps us the most in that. Now let's go to the SKU level budget optimizations. So what I would do is also on top of that, we would basically go through. So on top of capping the account, there were some SKUs that I wanted to increase profit margin for. And so we went in and did that. So I'm going to go over kind of like my process for budget optimization with you guys. Let me get rid of these account level results really quick. And then I want to go over some SKU level results. November 2023, SKU 1, here we go. So SKU 1 in October, let's go over this. I'll make my head a little smaller. There we go. All right. Put this down. Cool. Sales were not a lot, right? This is not a high volume SKU. This is a low volume SKU. So $3,661, $1,026 in spend. And then in November, let me get rid of SKU 2 for now. SKU 1. So $3,661, So 28 net profit and margin was 0.79%. To whereas in November, 3,184 in sales. So sales decreased, but not by much. Spend went from 1,000 to 359. So that tells us we were overspending and hitting that point of diminishing returns, and our margin went to 11%. So from break even to 11%, which is huge. But keep in mind with this one, one thing to note that we did, the one thing that we did for this specific SKU, we paused the ads. So if you can see over here, let me show you where that happened. So in October, we can see that you see these red bars right here, these red bars, that if you look at the key here, which is the key for this graph, that's the advertising cost. The red bars are the advertising cost. And you can see in October, this is October 23, we can see that, we have bars every day. So we're spending every day. But then for this one, we decided let's pause the ads. So this is like a lower volume SKU. It's not a high volume SKU. So it's like, let's pause the ads and see what happens. It's a low volume SKU and let's see what happens. And so we can see here on around the 13th, I think on the 14th, we paused the ads. Let me get my little thing here. So around here, the 14th, we pause the ads, and you can see on the left-hand side, there are those red bars, which are advertising cost. And on the right-hand side, we don't have any more of those red bars. And we can see that our it's doing well, man. And you might be thinking, well, what about seasonality? One thing to note is this specific product does not do well in Q4. It is not a Q4 product, right? So, we did see some bumps here. I know we have like the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all that stuff. But even if, let's say we didn't see some bumps here and there, even if it was like $2,000 or something, we would have probably spent less money and we would have probably gotten like an 11% margin. You know what I mean? We would have probably, even if we made less sales, we would have done well. So, what's kind of the takeaway here is, evaluate whether or not you should be running ads for specific products. Low volume SKUs might not need ads to be run. And, the thing is, these are, 173 units, not too bad actually. But the biggest thing is it's a really competitive space and the cost per clicks are pretty expensive. So, we decided just to try it out, and the brand is pretty strong in general. So I think that helped out a lot, is that it's a cohesive brand, and a lot of it has complementary products. So this is complementary to its other products. So people might buy that as well. So I think that helps. But, there are some situations where you might be running ads for a SKU that's maybe low volume that you should test pausing to see if, hey, we might get less sales, but more profit or profit margin. So that's SKU 1 right there. Now let's go over SKU 2. Hold on. Let me find, where's it at? All right, SKU 2. All right, we got SKU 2 here, and we got SKU 2 here. So with SKU number 2, this is a higher volume SKU, and we can see that it has, in October, did, 1,200 units sold. So let's go over the data together. 30,552 in sales. Let me make this a little bigger. I might actually be able to make this all the way big so that we can see everything. There we go. 30,552 in sales. 2,845 in profit, 8,300 in spend, and then our margin is 9%. So, about 10% margin. So what we did with this one was we did some budget optimization. So you can see the advertising cost went from $8,300 to $4,000. And we do see that sales goes from $30,500 to $25K. So, a $5K decrease in sales. But we see that our profit goes from 2,000. Here, let me do this just to make it, I think it's better. Net profit goes from 2,845 to 4,640. Our margin doubles from 9.31% to 18.4% with $5,000 less in sales and, over $100 less units sold. So, the biggest catalyst, I think, is our ad spend went from 8,300 to 4,000. So what we did here is we optimized budgets. We did budget optimization. And I'm going to go through how we optimized the budgets. So let's go through one example of what we did. Oh, still got my markup tool there. So here are some of the budget. Here's an example of what we did here. Is we looked at the budgets. We looked at the last 14 days, and 14 days is, I like the 14-day time frame for most products to look at the data. And I looked at ACoS, conversion rate, all of these different metrics. But I want to show you how we did this, because you can see we have conversion rate here. We have number of days. We have daily spend. We have new budget. We have all these additional columns. So what I do is I export. So when you're in Campaign Manager and you're looking at Campaign Manager, and on the right hand side there's a button called Export. What that does is it allows you to export campaigns. So what I do is I type in the search bar in the Campaign Manager the specific SKU that I'm searching for, because we put our SKU in our campaign names. So we put the SKU in the campaign names. So I'll filter by that SKU. And then what I'll do is I'll export the data for that SKU. And I'm going to go over like a sample of what this kind of looks like. Let's go over. I need to go to my Finder. There we go. So here's a budget sample data that I've created for us. All right. So like, for example, I exported this data. So when you click export, it'll download and it'll open up to something like this. And then let me go to, perfect. I have a tool that I created, a macro. So it says, do you want to use a macro? For those that don't know, a macro is, it's like a tool that allows you to automate stuff, use Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to click Enable Macros. And if you want to access your macros, you go to click on the Developer tab, and then I'll click on macros. So what I do is with this tool, I just select all, I copy it, and then I paste it here. And you don't even need to do this with this tool. You could do it manually. I did it manually for a while until I started noticing that it's something that I want to repeat, consistently. So that's why I created like an automation for it. So the next thing you want to do is click on macros, and then budget format, and then click run. And then what it does is it adds in conversion rate. So it adds in, so it gets rid of some columns. So it gets rid of quite a few columns here, like status, type, all that stuff, some less necessary stuff. We want mainly the numbers. So what it does is it adds columns. Let me make the font a little bigger. Now, whether or not you have the automation, I don't know if it really matters that much. I'm just going to go over how it formats it, because you could do it manually yourself. So I'll go over each one. So what it does, it adds CVR, which is conversion rate, which is basically just the orders divided by clicks for the campaign, and then it converts it to percentage. So I have the conversion rate of each campaign. Also, what it does is it creates a column called number of days, and it puts at default 14 days. So if you download a different time frame, like 7 days, you would want to change this to 7. Okay, so you need to do it based on how many days of data you've exported from the Campaign Manager, which you can control, the dates in Campaign Manager. And then we have the average daily spend. So what this does is it takes the spend and it divides it by the number of days. So now I have, on average, how much do these campaigns spend? Now, the reason you need to know this data, like a lot of people might go in and they might just cut, I'll make myself a little bigger. So some people might go in and they might just cut campaigns. So they might just say, hey, here's a, this one has 150% ACoS and it's spending, it's $20 a day. It's $20 budget. So let's cut it down to 10. But that doesn't tell you how much it's spending on a daily average. So that might be spending $5 a day and you cut it down to $10 and the spend doesn't go anywhere. So that's why you got to know the average daily spend over a certain number of days, because it tells you, hey, how much, so the budget for this is $12 and we're spending $1.75. right? So this will tell us, it actually can help you with finding low spend ones as well on top of high spend ones. So what we did was we went through, and this is just sample data, but what I looked for, I filtered by, I sorted it by the average daily spend to see what the high spenders were. And then I look at the ACoS and I ask myself, hey, are there areas to improve? You know what I mean? I also looked at conversion rate as well. So I kind of looked at ACoS, conversion rate. I also look at number of orders and the average daily spend. And what I'm really looking for is high spending, so I'm either looking for low spending campaigns with a low conversion rate and high ACoS and pull those back, or high spending campaigns that have a high ACoS and even a good conversion rate. Because sometimes you need to cut back on campaigns that might be performing well because you might not be making enough profit. Now, I know that sounds radical. Like, why would you decrease budgets for a campaign that does kind of well? Well, it might not be, you might have hit that point of diminishing returns in PPC. But honestly, for the most part, the higher spend, let me backtrack here. You're looking for high spend, high ACoS campaigns, not good ACoS campaigns. Let me retract that whole statement, because now that I'm thinking about my history of making adjustments, I never do that. So you're looking for those high spend, high ACoS campaigns that you want to cut back. And what we would do is we would just adjust the budgets. And that's where we got more profitable with this SKU number 2. We kept adjusting budgets every 4 to 7 days. But remember, keep in mind, I want you to remember this core situation here. Look, what am I doing? Look, we adjusted the budgets here. Look at the new budget. So we've got the budget over here. This is the original budget. We've got the new budget right here. This is the budget we used to change. Now, we change them with bulk files. You can change them with Campaign Manager, but these are the new budgets. So I know that this was done on 11/13. On November 13th, this was done. So I know that. I know this was done on November 13th. So when I'm looking at the data to figure out whether or not the decrease in budgets actually helped this product work towards our goal of better profit and profit margin, what I will do is let's look at 4 to 7 days before the 13th and 4 to 7 days after the 13th to determine whether or not we are moving in the right direction on profitability. Now, we were, so I was happy with the results. But if, for example, the results weren't good, I can always reverse the changes, right? Because I have them tracked right here. So let's say I make these changes and sales tanks, profit tanks, everything goes horribly. Well, guess what? I can just reverse the changes because these are the changes that I made. That's why tracking is so crucial and so key to PPC. It helps you to reverse changes, and if things go south, and remember what changes you made afterwards. And also it helps you learn more about the platform. Awesome. So I will say that's it, guys. That is my Amazon PPC case study where we improve the profit margins and the profit of an account, even though sales went down. But, the client that I'm working with, they want more profit and profit margin. So that's it. That is the end of this video. And so before we wrap it up, if you made it this far, first off, thank you so much for your time, for your energy. And I want to, since you made it this far, I want to share something with you. So I am giving away a free automation, a free bid optimization automation. So if you go over to this right here, URL, which I will put in the description. So it will be in the description of this YouTube video. So go to the description, click on the link, and it will take you here. And you can get a free automation that will help you cut bleeding keywords. So basically what this automation does is it finds keywords with 0 sales and a certain amount of clicks that you can put in. You can put in 8 clicks, 9 clicks, 10 clicks. And what it does is it allows you to upload a bulk file, and it makes all the changes for you in minutes. Like, you can make thousands of changes very quickly. And guess what? It'll cut keywords. It'll cut product targets. It'll cut category targeting. It'll cut auto campaign targets. And guess what? It'll also cut sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. It works for all 3 ad types. It will save you so much time. It will save you thousands of dollars and hours of time. And you'll be able to track the before and after. So you can you can reverse these changes if they don't work out for you. So you can upload the changes, and if it does well, that's great. And if not, you can reverse them. So check it out, get the free automation. So keep in mind, when you go to this link to get the automation, you're going to get the automation itself, which is an Excel file, and you're going to get a video on another page that will go through step by step how to use this automation. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for this video. If you liked it, please subscribe, like, share it with someone. Either share the video or share the knowledge if it's valuable, because the goal is to make sure that we all get better at making decisions with our Amazon PPC. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching the video, and until next time.